Hello and welcome to episode 15 of the Game Dev Tutorials. Today we are going to be working with reflection using the Activator class. The steps we're going to take today is we are going to add reflection to make the classes dynamic. Remember I told you last time when we were creating spawn points we were hard coding in Portal, and when we were creating buildings we're hard coding in Tower. We are not going to hard code that anymore. This will be dynamic so that we can add any kind of child class of those kinds. We're going to edit the XML to contain the spawning mob types. So remember we have rates on the portals. The imp is like 50% of the time, and the spider I think is like 20% of the time. We are going to make that something we load in from the XML. We are going to edit spawn point to take in XML data and then to load said data. We're going to create a list of mobs and rates based on the new information that we put in the XML data, and then we are going to use reflection to spawn the mobs from the list, so that will also be dynamic. So whereas the gameplay of the game will not change, we will be taking the program from a whole lot of hard coding to a whole lot less hard coding. So yeah, that's what we're working on today. Alright, so let's jump right in. Last time we left off hard coding in here Portal and Tower, and that's what we're going to change today. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to add right here, we're going to say type, and we're going to say S-type equals null. So we're going to start off, we're just initializing the variable that we're going to be using, and then we are going to say, I'll explain this all in a second, don't worry. S-type equals type dot get type, and in here we are going to put in true is the second thing. It's always true for me. I don't know, actually, even to be honest, what that true is. Ignore case. I don't know what case it's using, but anyway, always put true there. And then we have to put in the class that we're calling. So the class is this dot whatever, right? So that's our namespace dot what we're trying to call, and what we're trying to call, if you remember, is that. So type. Go back into player. Jump in here. We'll grab this bit here, because this is how we get into our XML data. And to depose, it's just type. Okay. So now we are creating an S-type. An S-type is like a way to dynamically create a class from a string. So obviously that's a string, and we are dynamically creating this class. So this then goes into the Activator class. So instead of this piece here, which would be the constructor for a hard-coded class, what we're going to do is we're going to say first what type we're doing, and so our type is a spawn point, and then we're going to say Activator, A-C-T-I-V-A-T-O-R, there, O-R, okay, dot create instance, and then we're going to say S-type, so use the same constructor variables as you would, except for you lead with S-type, alright, and then you're going to need an extra close paren here. So all the rest of the constructor variables stay exactly the same in the exact same order. Don't mess with the order, except for you put S-type in the front. So that's all you do. This will now activate this instance and put it into spawn point, just like we would have done with the hard-coded one. Now, a quick word of caution. This is much more expensive than hard-coding your classes. So if for some reason you're spawning something dynamically during runtime and you're getting lag every time we spawn something or every time you create something, you may need to hard code it. It's probably 2 to 3 times depending on the class. more resource intensive to do it this way. So consider that. It is extraordinarily rare that I've run into a problem with this, but keep in mind that that is a possibility. I find this to be so much more readable and efficient code-wise that it's just worth it in almost every case. So that's why I do it this way. I recommend you do it this way. That way you don't have an if statement or a switch statement somewhere that's, you know, I don't know, 50 things long and takes up 150 lines of code on your game. So anyway, that's my word of caution. I'm just letting you know. Keep an eye out for it, but I doubt that this will cause you any issues unless you're doing something pretty crazy. Okay. So we're going to copy paste this down because we want to do buildings as well, right? So we do that. Instead of this, we have building type, and then we, instead of tower, we're going to take this here and paste it over this, and we're going to put an S type. I guess I could have copied that too. Okay, and then add the extra paren. Awesome. That should go through. It's not a spawn point, it's a building. Okay, so we're going to test this real fast, make sure this works before we move on and do other things. I want to make sure I haven't broken things because this is the main emphasis of this video. There's a spider, another spider, and some imps. Okay. Now I am catching frame rate just because I have too many things open right now. Let me close some things out, but close that out. Close that out. That should do the trick for the next part. Okay. Welcome to having an old computer, right? Alright, so we've done that. Now what we want to do is we want to go into level 1, and we want to add data for which mobs are showing. So I just say mob, and then imp, and then rate equals, I think it was 50% of the time. And then we'll copy paste that. And it was 20% of the time for spider. And we will copy paste that down to both our other portals. And now what we can do is add dynamicness. So now spiders spawn at different rates, which is pretty cool. Alright, so let's save that. Alright, so we want to jump into player. No. We want to go into spawn point. Inside spawn point, we're going to add another variable, xElement data, and we are going to add a function, public virtual void load data. So the same as we've been doing. xElement data. First thing we do is say if data not equal null, just because otherwise it breaks if it's null. And there are times, and we are going to use a time when we want it to be null. We don't want it to load in these things. So just keep that in mind. So load data. Now if I build that, that should break some stuff. Yep, there we go. So we got to add it to the child classes. So data. Okay, that should build now. Oh, we got to put in our null. So in this case, if we're spawning an egg sac, we actually don't want data. So if you look in egg sac, it only spawns the spiderling, so we don't really need it to be dynamic. And it spawns exactly the right amount, and we don't want it to not spawn sometimes, so we can leave this be. Let's see. So in spawn point, we're now passing the data. Let's get the data passed in from player. So that's just adding another bit on here. Spawn list I is all the data. And then this bit here, setting the timer, we can just move that in. We could also move in the position and stuff, but this is the only one that's not already working based on the constructor. So we can remove all this, and we can say data here, and that should do the trick. Okay, so now we've moved that in, so it's nice and encased and pretty and easy to find in the future. Okay, the next bit that we're going to do is we are going to load in this data. Okay, now to do that, we actually want to do exactly what we've been doing in player. Right, we want pretty much this whole bit right here. Okay, so instead of a spawn list, this is a mob list. Oops. Fingers on the wrong spot. There we go. And this we'll get to in a second, because we are actually going to create a wonderful little class to deal with this. It's in spawn points. We're going to add new item, mob choice. Yeah. Add. Okay. So we shave that off. We grab our includes. Whoops. Right there. We make the class public because we don't want to run into all those little errors. Let's see. So public mob choice. We have our constructor. Now we come in here and we say we need a public int rate. Oh, I forgot to put that in the XML file. We got to go do that in a second. Give me a second. Public string mobster, and then we're gonna pass in string mobster, and then int rate. Rate equals rate. Mobster equals mobster. Okay. Forgot to do that one part, so let's jump in and fix that in here. Oh no, I did put in rate. For some reason I thought I forgot it. Okay. No big deal. Got it right the first time, always nice. Yeah, that's all this takes. This is just a packet basically of data. And that way we can stuff two things into the same list as opposed to one thing in two separate lists. Don't do that, it's bad. Always do it this way. Okay, so we're looping on mob list. Oh, sorry, we went back to spawn point. We want to finish up the code here that we were working on. We're looping on mob list. We actually aren't creating this here. We don't need reflection for this. What we need, stay here, is just to say, oh, we need a list in here. List mob choice is equals new list mob choice. Okay, so we have that. Now we have the list. Yay! So we want mob choices dot add new mob choice. So this holds every kind of choice, so we don't need to have this dynamic. We can use the hard coding. And then we need to grab well, it's just this. Mob list I dot element. Oh, that's not an element. It's just value. And then the second part, I'm going to do it, and then I'm going to explain it. Grab our code. That's why I left this down here. Was to grab our convert to int code. And we don't have an X. And we have rate. But it's not an element. It's an attribute. Why is that not? Oh. It's not finding it because this doesn't exist. I'm like, where's my IntelliSense? Attribute. Okay. So this we don't need. That creates our mob choices. Now let me go and show you. Notice I put this data inside the tag with mob. That makes it an attribute. Now I did that on purpose so I could show you guys this. It also made it slightly cleaner. Using attributes well will save you about 60% of the space that that tag would have used. Because you would have to say rate in a tag like this, and then slash rate, okay? And you would have the little caret brackets as well. So it ends up being usually about 60%. Now, there are conventions for how you use attributes. You can technically use them for everything, but that starts to make your code very unreadable. So first of all, I try to have no more than, say, 2 or 3 attributes that I use. ID is often an attribute, but the rate is small and easy, so I put it in there. And I also wanted to show you guys it. But usually it's like IDs, or sometimes even type can go in there. But yeah, that's a way to save a little bit of space in your XML files. Alright, we're back here. We have our mob choices. Woo woo. Now we need to go into Portal. Inside Portal, we are going to be working on all this stuff right here. Okay? First things first. This was through 10. We're going to make it through 100 because I used 20 and 50. We are going to need an int to keep track of the total. We started at 0. We do not need 2 of these because we're going to only use 1 to be dynamic. We're going to loop through our mob choices. I didn't make that public. There we go. Try that again. Mob choices dot count I++. Okay, so now if num is less than total, then we want to create the thing. One thing we need to do is we need to add to total before we ask if it's less than, because otherwise it will just be wrong. So total plus equals mob choices. Typing is not my thing today. Dot rate. Okay, so we add the rate. So the first time it's going to be 50. The next time it adds the spiders bit onto it, and as long as the random number is less than that number, it goes. Now, one thing you will notice, let's say that it's 10. It's less than imp. It loops through, it creates an imp, and then it loops through again, and it's less than the 70 because 50 plus 20. So it overrides temp mob with spider. We don't want that, so we break. Or whatever your preferred way to get out of a for loop is, but break's just the easiest way. Well, at least in my opinion. Alright, so now what we need to do is use reflection again. Use our Activator class. Let's come down in here. Let's grab our Activator class. I guess just all of this is fine. and then we'll grab the pieces we need. Alright, in Portal, I'm just going to paste it right there. That's not necessarily what we need. I'm going to do that. Now I can get rid of all of this. And do we need... No, we don't need any of them. Well, we'll leave that for a second. Okay, so what's the string that we are going to use to spawn this thing? Well, it is mob choices. I dot mobster. So that's our string. It's a type mob. We're going to be putting it into temp mob, which is a little bit different because it's not an add. So instead of this, we're going to say this. We're going to remove a paren from the end because we remove one from the beginning. Awesome. Okay, so we're activating, so we have that. And then this is the data we need in our constructor, right? So we take that. We come. We should have, I think, the 2 parens, which is exactly what we have. And that should work. So we now remove that. And we have added dynamic mob creation from portals. Now the reason that that's awesome is, let's say we add like 5 different mobs, okay? And we can come in here and we can say, oh, this portal only spawns the first 3, and this one spawns 1, 2, and 4, and this one spawns 1, 2, and 5. Now all 3 portals are actually different, even though they're just the portal class. Could you do that by having a bunch of children classes? You absolutely could. There's nothing stopping you from doing it that way. But this allows you to use an XML file to put all that data all in one spot so you can see it. Don't have to do it that way, but it's here, and you can do it this way. I like to do it this way. That way, if I want to just come in and change the entire level, I can go through the XML file and completely redo the level, provided it's done right. Okay, I believe this is going to work. Let's build it and see what happens. Alright, we built it. And no mobs. So let's go to portal. See what's happening here. We got no mob choices. Okay. Did something wrong there. Let's see. Mob choice and spawn point. What did I do wrong here? Spawn point. It's supposed to be mob. Something small like that. Gotta make sure you change everything out. Alright, let's try this again. You can already see the mobs coming. There they are. We've seen spiders. We've seen eggs. Still getting a bit of frame issues. The computer has been on all day working, so it's just probably being ridiculous. Okay, if you can see, we still have the exact same game, with the exception of the fact that we have everything dynamic, which is awesome. And we're ready to kind of move on a little bit and do a little bit more adding to the game, hopefully, I think, next video. Well, I'm not 100% sure. Alright, that concludes this video. If you guys like the video, make sure that you like the video. Make sure that you subscribe if you haven't already. Consider Patreon. Past that, I hope you guys have a good start of your week, and I will try to get another video out either Friday or Saturday. Alright, you guys have a good one.